Hello there, and a very warm welcome to another video from Change Tips and Tools. This video is part 5 of the Resource Capacity Planning series with me, Phil, the Brummie that hails from Birmingham, England. And again, remember, I will go through this training series as an end-to-end project, not skipping any detail, and I will walk you through step by step on how to build this template for yourself. However, if you can't wait until the end of this training series, you can get a copy of the completed template on the Change Tips and Tools Patreon, and the link can be found in the description. Now, the purpose of today's video is to build the dynamic visuals on our summary sheet for our resource capacity planning template. And by the end of this video, you will learn some tips and tricks on how to visualize your data, including a fantastic Speedo Dial for our utilization KPIs. So we will focus on the summary sheet. So we will create all the charts, make sure they are linked to slicers and that they are interactive. We'll also do some of the formatting on the summary at the top here. But we will not include the hyperlink buttons here, and we'll also create our Speedo as well, our Speedo Dial, so I'll show you how to create that. So that's what we are going to focus on in this video. But hold that thought. I've learned that based on the analytics of this channel is that only 15% of you are subscribed, which means that 85% are not. So can I please ask you to take a moment to subscribe and hit that like button if you haven't already, as it really helps the channel immensely. And a big thank you for the support and the positive feedback and visiting my channel. I'm so grateful to you all. Now, enough of my shameless self-promo. Let's get back to the video. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do here, I'm going to go back to my summary support tab, and I just want to check I've named all these pivot tables appropriately. So I'm going to select the first one, select pivot table analysis. So yeah, I've named that table, pivot table. Let's select this one. Yeah, that's got a meaningful name. Let's select this one. No, so I didn't name that one. So this is going to be my availability. So I'm going to call this PVT, sum for the summary sheet, availability, like so. So that's named. Also, I'm just going to check this number format here. So I'm going to right click on it, do field value settings. Just want to check one thing on the number format. Yeah, so I want this to show minus values in red, and that'll become clear when we create the chart. So I'm going to select that format. So instead of just a normal minus 1, 2, 3, 4 there, I'm going to select it so it puts the font in red as soon as it goes negative. I'm going to click OK there and click OK again. So I've done that as far as that format's concerned. Let's check this pivot table. Yep, that has a meaningful name. Let's check this one. Yep, all good. Looks like I've only missed one so far. Let's check the cost. Yep. And what about this one? No. Right, so let's give this a meaningful name. So I'm going to call this pivot sum counts. So those are my counts and my programs, my projects and resources. I don't want that to change. So I'm going to hit return like so. So now I've named all those appropriately. Let's go back to my summary sheet. And if you remember in the previous video, is on this skill set connections, on report connections. So I'm going to right click on it. Let's just check my report connections. So I'm going to click that. Let's make it a little bit bigger so you can see what I'm looking at here. So the availability, I want this to impact the availability. I don't want it to impact the sum counts because that just stays constant always on the summary up here. Everything else seems to be selected okay. So I've got the So these are that's the summary of the cost totals, which will sit at the top here. We've got the demand versus capacity, which is this chart here. We've then got the cost versus capacity cost, which is this chart here. We've then got our sum of hours totals, okay, which is going to be, again, the summary at the top here. We want that to change. And then we've got utilization, and availability will also be our availability chart. Okay, so we've got everything connected to this particular slicer. So if I click OK there, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to make this column here, I'm going to right click on it and do column width and make that 28, like so, and hit return, just to make that a little bit wider. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to move this over here for now, just out of the way. Again, I'm just going to double check that this is still doing what I want it to do. All looks fine to me. Great. And let's take that filter off. So the other filter down here is that we've got on our resource summary sheet in that template, is that we want our resources. So again, I'm just going to go onto here and I'm going to do insert. I'm going to do slicer. And again, I'm going to go into the data model, double click on that, scroll down to resources. And I could just do active there, but as you can see, it's blank because I've got nothing selected in here. So if I go down to resources, the resource table, scroll all the way down, and there it is, table resources. And I can see I've got start finish there. I'll have to check what that's referring to, because again, remember I'm OCD, we need to name the tables appropriately. So I'm going to choose resource from the table resources in our data model and click OK. And then again, I'm going to move that over to here. Again, do the drop down here. So on the slicer ribbon, I'm just going to change the format so it's again same color format as everything else. And again, I'm going to right click on it and do report connections. Let's move this over here, make it a little bit larger so you can see it. So again, we want this to affect our availability. We want it to affect the sum cost totals. We don't want it to impact the counts, but we do want the demand versus capacity. We want that. We want the hours totals, and we also want the utilization. And I'm going to click OK. So now we've now got our resource slicer and we've got our skill set slicer. Brilliant. Right. Next thing I'm going to do is I'm going to do some resizing of these before we start inserting our other charts in here, just to make room. So the first thing is that I want to, this is here on C13, and I want it to come across. It's a little bit wide, so I'm going to select it. Now, holding down the Alt key on anything when you are moving it makes it snap to the grid, so the Excel grid here. So I want this to come to sort of here, the end of L, column L. So I'm going to hold down the Alt key, select this, and it should just snap to L, like so. Now, as far as the height is concerned, I want this to go to row 32 here. So if I again just scroll down here, and again hold down the Alt key, and I'm going to scroll until drag it to row 32. It just snaps there neatly. I'm then going to bring this cost of demand versus cost of capacity. I'm just going to again hold the Alt key, select it, and it should just snap there like so. And again, I want to bring this as far as the the row, the height here. I want to again hold down the Alt key, yeah, and just drag it up to that so it's the same height as this. And then as far as the width is concerned, I want it to come to W here. So again, I'm going to drag that across to W like so. So now that looks right to me. Okay, perfect. So the next thing I want to bring in here then is I'm going to bring in, and again, let me just change these here as well. So again, I want to make sure that these are the correct height on the rows for later. So I want this row here. If I right click on it, do row height. So I'm going to make that 116 like so. And I'm going to make the row below it, select that, and again row. So right click on it, row height, and make that 34. Again, I'm just setting these row and columns to the necessary widths and heights that I want in here. Now, as far as this is concerned, I want this to be on. So again, I'm going to drag that up so it's just below. Snaps to column 2, and I'm just going to snap it there, and then just make sure that this here snaps to 16. And again, I'm going to take this one and I'm just going to there, holding down the Alt key so it just snaps to the grid line. I'll work on the height of this one once I've got the other charts in there. So the next thing that I want to put in here then is let's put the other charts below here in. So we want resource availability and we want resource utilization. So I want resource availability to go there. So let's go to our summary support tab. I'm going to select this pivot table and I'm going to do insert. And I'm going to select this bar chart here. So it's going, instead of vertical, it's going horizontal. Let's make it a little bit bigger, like so. And on the pivot chart analysis ribbon, I'm just going to select the field buttons here and I'm just going to say hide all, like so. Now, this at the moment has got, I want it to go from January to December on the left hand side. So I'm going to just select that, do Control 1. It's floating. Let me just drag that over to the side there so it just docks like so. And I am going to go to I want it in reverse order. So watch when I do that. It's now put it in reverse order. And as far as the labels are concerned, and as far as the position of the labels, I'm just going to do the drop down and make it high. No, let's make that low, in fact, like so. So I'll make that low. This one, though, because it's in reverse order, let's select that. Let's see. So is it high? There you go. So that's high because it's in reverse order. So I've got the position right. I don't want the legend to be there, so I'm just going to untick the legend. As far as the chart title is concerned, let's put a title, a meaningful title in here. Return, there you go. Let me just drag that over to the left. I'll do some more formatting later on that. Now on this series here, I'm just going to select it. I'm not going to do anything about the overlap here, but let's go to the formatting here and the fill. And what I want to do here is on the invert if negative, I want that to go red if it goes negative. So if I select this invert, the negative, yeah. So let's make that solid. Then do the invert. Then basically, so I've got this because I don't want it to be automatic. I've then got that as blue, positive, and this one on the invert, I'm going to make it red, like so. Wonderful. And then what I'm going to do on here is, with this selected, I'm just going to do data labels, and I want it on the outside end like so. Let's make them bold. So I'm going to select the data labels and do Control B. Wonderful. So I'm then going to take this chart here and do Control X to cut it. Go back to my summary, and where I've got this selected, I'm going to do Control V to paste it. And again, what I'm going to do is I'm just going to adjust this. So hold down the Alt key. I'm going to adjust it to the same column there. And I'm going to change the height. So again, hold down the Alt key. I'm going to pull it up to around 53. So now I've got that height looking about right. I'm going to grab this one here. And again, hold down the Alt key, just bring that down, snap it to where it's level. Right, so that's the resource availability. And again, if I hit Architect, let's look at what's going on here. So let me select the series here, go into the fill. Ah, you can see. So that's user error. Apologies. So I've left this vary colors point still ticked, so I need to untick that. Select the solid line. So the first point is going to be the blue, and then that my negative is going to be red, like so. And there you go. That should fix it now. So if I just close that down, take the filter off, reapply it, boom, it is now fixed. So let's take that filter off. So next thing we want to do is we want to create the utilization graph here. So again, I'm going to go select that cell there because that's where we're going to paste it. I'm going to go back to my summary support, and let's take this pivot table, which is our utilization, and I'm going to do insert, and then I want the line chart. So I want one of these here. So I'm going to take the line chart like so, and again, I'm just going to make this a little bit larger than it is, and I'm going to select here hide all buttons. So all fill buttons are gone. Now this is fine. So I want to change this format, which is going to be our utilization goal. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that data series, and I'm going to do Control 1. And on here, I'm going to make it, I don't want it to be automatic. I want it to be a solid line. I want it to be green. And as far as the line type, I want it to be just a line like so. And as far as the mark is concerned, marker options, I'm just going to do none. So there's no markers there. So let me just click off that. So that looks fine to me. I'm then going to select this data series here, and I am going to do again on the pivot table. In fact, no, I'm going to do it here. Plus sign, data labels, and I'm going to do them above like so. Wonderful. And let's make those again. Select them and do Control B to make them bold. So I've now got my my data series there. So again, on here on the legend, I want that to be at the top, and I also want a chart title like so. So let's give this a meaningful chart title. Let's call it resource utilization. Let's take that and move it over to the left, and let's put you over to, move that over to the right like so. Okay, that works for me. I'm going to make sure I've got the whole chart selected. Control X to cut it, go back to the summary sheet, and I'm going to do Control V like so. Let me just get rid of this here. And again, all I'm going to do is hold down the Alt key, select this here, and drag it to be there. So it clicks, and again, Alt key, so it just snaps to the bottom of that row 53, like so. And there we go. So now, if I just test this, if I do architect, so there you go. Now you can see it's giving you that information. You can see where we've got the overutilization, which is consistent with these months here as well. Wonderful. And we can also see that we don't have any activity in August onwards, and also that we're underutilized in July. So we can see all that. That seems to work wonderfully. Now, the other thing I'm going to do on this is, if I just look at this, I think this is because one thing you have to watch for is, again here, we've got a problem where it's not showing the full. And that's because we've resized the charts and it's cut the end of the legend labels off. So let me just fix that and correct it. Wonderful. Now we fixed that. Job done. Right, so those are those charts. In fact, one more thing I'm going to do here is, if I take that, I'm going to make you bold, and let's make you a little bit bigger. So again, make that bold. Let's make it, what was it, 16? What was that one I did? Yeah, 18. So let's make you 16. Make that one 16 as well. Let's be consistent. Make you bold. Make it a 16 font size. And then finally, the resource utilization. Let's make you 16 and bold. Right, job done. Okay, I'm happy with all those. Right, now we need to do our summary information here. Yeah. So we want a total, the totals as far as our demand and capacity here, and we want our total as far as our cost and capacity as well. Then over here is where we're going to put our Speedo Dial and our utilization target information. So what I'm now going to do is, if I take, I'm just going to select there, and I'm going to go into my summary report, and I'm going to take this here, yeah, this pivot here, and do insert, and I'm going to do bar chart, like so. Again, just make that a little bit bigger so I can see what I'm doing. I'm going to, on the pivot chart analysis, get rid of all the buttons. I'm going to take my legend here, and I'm going to put it on the top, like so. I'm then going to select total capacity, do Control-1, and I'm going to make this 100% overlap. I don't need to worry about the size of it. Yeah. And I am going to go to my fill, do no fill, and again on a solid line on the border, and I'm going to make that a dark blue, like so, and make that 1, 2, the width or the thickness 2, so it stands out like so. I'm then going to get rid of my axes here, so I don't want this axis, so I'm just going to select it and hit delete. I'm going to get rid of this total at the bottom where we don't need that. I'm just going to get rid of delete, and on this I'm just going to, on the format, as far as the outline is concerned, don't want any outline. Right, I'm then going to make this a little bit smaller, like so, and I'm going to do Control X. I'm going to go to my summary report, and I'm going to paste it there. So I'm going to do Control V. So again, I just want to make sure that this snaps into position. So let's hold down the Alt key, snaps there, and then I want to bring this to Command G, like so, and I'm happy happy with that. Let's take this and select it and do control. We don't need to do that. So if I go over to here and let's make this a little, let's do 50. There we go. Let's make it a little bit wider, like so. Yeah, I like that. And then all I'm going to do with this selected is I'm going to go here, data labels, and I'm going to do the outside end like so. Now on here, I don't like the fact there's no commas in the number, so I'm going to take this one here and first of all just select the top one, which is the total capacity, and do Control B and make that bold. But I'm going to go back to my summary support, and what I'm going to do is on each of these I'm going to right click on it, do value field settings, do number format, and I'm going to add this use comma separators like so. Click OK. OK again. I'm going to do this one here, right click on it, value field settings, number format, and I'm going to add that 1000 separator there like so, and click OK. Click OK again. If I go back to the summary sheet, that's better. I like that now. I've got the comma in there. It's easier to read. So that's the total capacity, so total demand versus total capacity information in here. So let's do the next one for the costs. My brain got stuck there. So if I go to summary support, let's go to this one here again. I'm just going to get rid of that for a second. I'm going to select my cost pivot table here. I'm going to do insert, select bar charts again. Again on this one, let's just make it a little bigger so we can see what we're doing here. I'm going to get rid of the field, so hide all. I'm going to select this one here as far as total capacity. Do Control 1. Again, make that 100% overlap, and based on last time, let's make this 50%, like so. I'm then going to take the fill, no fill, and as far as the border, a solid line, yeah, I'm going to keep that color and make the width, the thickness 2, like so. I'm then going to take the, I'm going to take these two here. I want the legend to be on the top. Brilliant. Again, I'm going to get rid of that axis, just select it, hit delete, select the left and just hit delete, so that's gone. And again, I'm just going to do data labels, outside end, and I'm going to make the total capacity cost bold. So again, I'm just going to make that a little bit smaller, a little not so wide, and also on the format I'm going to get rid of the outline. I don't want the outline, so no outline. And I'm going to do Control X to cut it, go to my summary sheet, and right here I'm just going to do Control V to paste it, and again let's do Alt key to snap it into position. Wonderful. And then I'm going to put this to here, so again holding down the Alt key, it snaps to L. Let's have a look at that. Okay, wonderful. Just close that. So I like the way that that looks so far. And if so what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this here. I want to make sure, because these grid lines are going to disappear, and I want these to stand out. So I'm going to go into format. As far as the outline's concerned, let's make it a lighter blue. Yeah, that's fine. Because I copy and pasted the summary totals in after I placed the demand versus capacity chart, I just need to make sure they don't mask that demand versus capacity chart. So I just need to right click and select bring to the front, like so. So now that demand versus capacity will not be masked by the summary totals. And then on here, I'm going to do the same thing here. I'm going to choose what I've set there. And again, same for this one, select it. On the format, just choose the same outline, and here choose the same outline like so. So when the grid lines are off, it stands out. Wonderful. Okay, so again, if I just test these, so it all seems to work fine. Brilliant. Okay, so these are now working dynamically, so that works fine. We'll put some headers in here. This is why I've made this row a little bit as far as the height is higher, so I can fit some labels in for these so they stand out. In fact, let's do that now. Before we get on to the excitement of the Speedo dial, let's work on these text boxes, and that's what they're going to be. So I'm going to insert a text box. Let's put this here. As far as the text is going to be, so that's going to be demand versus capacity. I'm happy with that. Let's make this as far as the line. So on the home ribbon, if I select, I want it to be in the middle, aligned. So, and then I want it to be center, like so. And then on the format, I'm going to choose this one here. The only difference I'm going to make is I just want that to be bold in the middle. Perfect. So again, I can, with it selected, using the arrow key, I can just move it over slightly. Now, what I want to do now is I want the same sort of format over here. So holding down my control key, you'll see a little plus sign. Once you see that, just drag it over with the control key held down and it just creates a copy. Then let go. Wonderful. So let's call this cost of demand versus cost of capacity. So I need to make that a little bit wider so it fits. Wonderful. And again, just align it so it's in the middle like so. Again, I'm just going to select this one, hold down the control key. Oh, I don't want that one. So with them both selected, on the format shape ribbon, I'm going to do a line. I'm just going to align them to the top, so they're both the same level, like so. Again, so that they're aligned. And there we go. So we've now got that. Looks fine to me. Now, next thing that I'm going to do here is with that. So if I take the grid lines off, you can start to see, what this is looking like. So if I do view, untick those grid lines, you can see how it's going to start to look. And we'll worry about this column width a bit later on. I just want to get everything on here and it's giving me some space to work. So let's put the grid lines back on because I'm using them as a guide. Now, as far as the top row is concerned, and again, I'm going to do some formatting here because I want to get this done before I get into the Speedo, is with that row selected on the home ribbon, I'm going to look at my fill and I'm going to select that color. So the color that I've selected here is this one here on standard colors. Again, remember, this is all based on our, if I go to page layout, it's all based on our color theme, which is this blue 2-1 that we've got selected, okay? That's what that is based on. And then as far as, again, with that row selected, on the home ribbon, I'm just going to do the drop down and I want a thick bottom line there. And I'm going to just select that. So I've then got that thick bottom line. So again, if I take the grid lines off, go to view, you can start to see what that actually looks like. Now, one of the things that we put on here is a little sort of picture or an icon fundamentally. So if I go into insert and I choose icons, and I'm just going to type in here on the icon selected people. And again, I'm just going to scroll down to the one that I like. Just looking at this, that one. So I'm going to select it and do insert. And there you go. I'm just going to make this a little bit bigger. Wonderful. There you go. So this is starting to take shape now. Yeah, so this is starting to take shape. So we've now used we've done all the things that we need to do as far as these charts are concerned. The only thing that we need to put in here is going to be our counts. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to leave that to the next video. So the next part of this, I'm going to focus on getting the Speedo in here and showing you how to do the Speedo and also the KPI pivot table as well here, so we can see the KPIs. So I'm going to focus on those. So to be able to do the Speedo dial, we need some new sheets. We need a support sheet to be able to drive it. And we're going to use some functionality called link picture, which you'll see work in a moment. This is how we can adjust the size of the Speedo to work on our sheet. So on the view here, I'm just going to put the grid lines back on because I need them as I want them as a guide. And then what we'll do is we are going to create a new support sheet. So I'm going to hit the plus sign. I'm going to rename this to be my Speedo support data and hit return. So the first thing that I'm going to need here is, this is about the way that we create the Speedo is we are using a combination of donuts and pie charts layered over each other with information to give that effect of a Speedo dial. So we need to create the data to generate that. So so the first thing I'm going to do is we need to understand the performance levels. So let me just type in some things in here. So if I go value, let's make that a little bit bigger. So if you remember, we set a KPI target, which is 75%. And what we're going to do is we're going to break this down so it represents that 75%. And if you remember, if I go to Power Pivot and I go to KPIs and manage KPIs, and we just open this one up, I'm not going to change it, but what you can see here is that we've got on that KPI, we've got so up to 40%, so 0.4, which is 40%. So anything below 40%, 40% or below is red. We've then got a space between sort of 40%, so 41% to 74% is amber. Then after 75% to 100% is green, and then after that we've got amber and so on. So what we want to do is duplicate this. We want to replicate this in our Speedo dial so that they're aligned. So if I just do cancel there and close. So the first one I'm going to do is going to be, I'm just going to call it poor, and that's going to be that 40%. Yeah. The next bit will be average. Now, if you think about this as segments, so I need this to add up as well, is I'm then going to say, right, so 40%, the next one is going to be 34%, so that takes it up to 74 as a total, yeah? So 40 plus 34 is 74, so that takes us just below. So that will be our red segment, this will be our amber segment, and then we'll do good, where the utilization's hitting the target. So that's from 75% up to 100%, so that's going to be 26% there. So again, if you add these together, if I highlight those cells, if I get down to here, and you can see the sum, where it's summing it, and you can see it's saying 100%. So that's how I'm doing that check there. I'm not having to do anything fancy. For those of you who are not great at arithmetic. And then the next segment then after 100% goes up to 130%. We're saying, again, we go back to poor because we're over allocated now. So all we do is we do 30%, like so. And again, if I highlight these cells and we go down to here, it's taking it to 130%. And then as far as then finally I'm going to do, so that's average, sorry, not poor, because that's going to be our amber, yeah. And then this is going to be poor, which after over 130%, and that's where it goes red again. So I'm going to make that 70%, like so. And then I'm going to put a total here, and I'm going to do Alt equals, which is the shortcut to do the sum, and I'm going to hit return, which gives me that 200% total. So all those added up gives me 200%. So again, I'm just going to put some grid lines, right? So on the home ribbon, I'm just going to put some grid lines so I can I'll make that. So that's my first set. So that's my performance. That's going to be my first donut that I create is going to be based on these segments here, yeah? The next thing I need is I need the value. So these are the segments that go, 10% segments that show me a measure. So it's like that dial. So I want to create that dial effect. And the way that I'm going to do that is, again, I'm just going to do labels. So let's just give that a heading there. So that's performance values. Yeah, and let me just highlight that across there. Do Control-1 on the alignment. I'm just going to make that horizontally aligned, center across selection. Click OK. This one here is going to be labels and values, and this is going to be for the dial. So this is the dial values. Again, I'm just going to highlight that, do Control-1, align that across like so. Now, as far as the labels are concerned, I want to start it from 0, so 0%, then it's going to be 10%, and so on. So let me just put those values in all the way down. So I'm going to go 10. So I've got these values here where I have a label going up to from 0, 10, 20 up to 100%. But then the next bit will be then is this 130%, which is where from 100% to 130 it's average. That will where it will be amber. So what I'm going to do here is I am just going to add a label here called 130%, like so. So these are going to be my data labels fundamentally. As far as the values are concerned, they're going to be 10% segments all the way to 90, and then it'll go 30% and 70% because I want that 200%. So I want the same total at the bottom here. So let me just type total there, like so. So again, I'm going to put 10% there. That 10% is going to be all the way down to 90, like so. I then want 30%, which will be the average or the amber section there, and then I'm going to put 70% to take it up to 200, like so. And again, if I do Alt equals, should sum those together, and again I get the 200%. Wonderful. So if I then take that and I make that, and I'm going to put a grid line against that as well. Wonderful. So this is the performance, this is the dial. I then want the values for the pointer. So that pointer that, on the Speedo goes from left to right on that Speedo, we need to create those values. So these two we're going to use donuts. The pointer is going to be driven by a pie chart. We're going to use a pie chart. Just stick with me, it'll make sense. So I'm going to do description, like so, and then I'm going to do value, and again I'm just going to put a little header here, highlight that, do Control 1, align center and click OK. I'm going to make this a little bit bigger. So we need a value for our pointer. We need a value for the thickness of that pointer. And then we need the rest. So what's left over. So what I'm going to do, as far as the pointer is concerned, that value is going to equal, and if I do equals, go to my summary support, it's going to be this value here. So it will be a get pivot. So when I select that and hit return, it's automatically done that get pivot. So remember, based on the get pivot, as that pivot table changes, that will dynamically change, which means as we select these here, it will also impact our Speedo information. So let me change that to a percentage, like so. Then as far as the thickness, I'm going to set this to 10% because I want to, we need to work with it in the formatting. So I need it to be thick enough. And then as far as the rest is concerned, is ultimately what we need to do here as far as the rest is that we need to add these two values together, and then we need to minus, and then we need to add these two values together and minus it, which will then give us the rest. So what that means as a formula is it equals, if I do an open bracket and take that value and then do plus this value here, this total here, and I'm going to minus, open bracket, this value here plus this value here, and close that bracket, should give me the rest. Wonderful. Again, I'm just going to put some grid lines on there. So now that I've done that and we've got our values, and again that will change based on, so if I go to summary here and I just select architect and I go to summary support, sorry, Speedo support data, you can see that that pointer value has now changed. Wonderful. So again, just take that off like so, go back to my Speedo support. So let's now create our Speedo dial. We've got all the information we need now to create our Speedo. So I'm going to select this first one here and I'm going to do insert and I'm going to choose donut like so. So let's make this a little bit bigger. All right, we don't want the title and we don't want the legend. We don't need that. I'm then going to select this data series and do Control 1. And the angle on the first slice, I'm going to change that to 270. So you can now see that that value there below, which is this one here, is now on the bottom. Yeah. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to select that first one and I'm going to go to fill. And in fact, no, I'm going to leave that for a second because I want you to see what I'm doing here. So that's the first one. You then want the second donut. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take this here. Oops. I'm going to take this one, do Control copy. I'm going to select my chart and do Control V. And now it's put the segments around the top. So what I'm going to do now here is I want to do some formatting on this before I add the actual pointer to it. So with this selected, the chart, just the chart selected, I'm going to go to chart design and I want to change the colors. And what I want to do is I want to change this to be more of a monochrome. So I'm just going to change it to that. again, shall we go with that one or should we go with that one? You know what? I'm going to go with that one. Okay. So now I've selected my overall colour palette for the chart. I can then do some things in here. So the first thing that I'm going to do here is I'm going to take this. I'm just going to select that, just that single one. And on the fill, or if it's not up, do Control 1. I'm going to do no fill. And I'm going to do no line on that. And I'm going to select this one here. Again, just click it again. So it's only, I'm only selecting this one. I'm going to do no fill. And I'm going to do no line. I'm then going to select these here. And again, I just want to make sure on here that I have, as far as the border's concerned on all this, I'm going to do no line because I don't want a line in there. And again, I'm going to select this one here. And again, on the border, I'm just going to make sure there's no line whatsoever. So now we've got this sort of chart here. And then what I'm going to do then is I want to take this. Let's just make this a little bit bigger so I can see what's going on. That one. So I'm going to do that. This solid line, as far as the solid line, let's just make that white, like so. And I'm going to take this one here. Okay, I like that, so let's just select that. Let's just take this one here. And again, just make sure, I don't want the line on that one, so I'm going to get rid of that one, say no line on that particular section. Right, okay, I'm happy with that. And now I need to put these colours on this performance piece. So I'm going to take this, select that one only, go to the fill. So remember, this one's going to be a solid fill and it's going to be red. Then I'm going to select this one and it's going to be amber. This one's going to be the good section here. So select that section. I'm going to make that green. Then we're going to go back to amber because that's going to be the average score. And then finally, poor, really over allocated, we're going to go red. So now we've got our performance piece here, as far as where it scores, as far as the RAG rating. We've got our segments, but now we need to get some values here on our dial. So I'm going to select this again, and I'm going to do here, and I want data labels. I'm just going to show my data labels like so. Let me just move this over. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to make my screen a little bit bigger here so I can see what I'm doing. And this is where the manual bit comes, where I've got to take the actual data labels here. So I've got the data labels here and I've got it selected over here on label options. And again, if it's, you can't see this over here, if you just select those data labels and do Control 1, and I don't want the actual values in there. So what I want is I want the values from cells. So if I select this option, I get this range. I'm going to hit the up arrow, and if I just scroll up, just move this, because I want this here. So if I go all the way down, yeah, and enter that in, do OK, and then get rid of these values, and I don't want to show the leader line. So now I've got those. If I look, what I've done is I've selected these here. And now that I've done that, I'm going to click this, select the first one. In fact, I'll make these bold first. Do you want to make them bold? Let's make them a little bit bigger, 11. And then I'm going to select the first one, and this is where the manual painful bit comes. Drag it, and then just sit it next to it again, just take these, and all I'm doing is just putting the corner in line with the segment, like so. So let me just align all these labels. And there you go. I'm happy with that. So let me just put this back to normal size. Just change this zoom here down to 100%. So I've now got my label. So let me move this to the side here. So the last thing that I want to put on here now is I want to add my pointer. So again, I'm going to select this. I'm going to do Control Copy, select my chart and do Control V. And then I'm going to select on here. I'm going to right click and change series chart type. So on that final one that we've just done, I'm going to change that to a pie chart and click OK. And again, with this selected, I'm going to change the angle to be rotation to be 270 on that first slice. And now I've got my first piece. So now I'm going to take this, which is the rest, yeah, on the fill. I'm going to do no fill. I'm going to do no line. Yeah. I'm then going to take this piece, which is this bit pointer, which starts, and I'm going to do no fill, and I'm going to do no line. And then I'm going to take the pointer segment, which is this 10% here, and I'm going to do no line, because I don't want a line, but I'm going to do a solid fill, and I'm going to make it black, like so, a black pointer there. And then all I'm going to do here is, as far as this is concerned, I'm going to just make this, as far as the explosion is concerned, so it just goes slightly out. I'm going to make that, let's say, 5% like so. So I've now done that pointer there. And what I'm going to do then is I'm just going to just make this now 3 as the thickness that I want. And then we've got the pointer effect here. So the next thing that I want to put on here is a text box just to put, well, what is the actual score on here, yeah? So what I'm going to do is, with the chart selected, I'm going to do, in fact, what I need to do first of all, that's fine, is, and what I was thinking is that you can't put a get pivot formula within a text box or a shape. It has to be a cell that you're referring to if you want it to be dynamic. And obviously we've already done that first bit, which is based on this here. So what I'm going to do is I am going to go with the chart selected, insert text box. I'm just going to draw it here. Then in the formula bar of that text box, I'm going to just do equals that cell there and hit return. And then again, with this selected, I'm just going to make that a little bit bigger. Let's make it bold. Again, I want it centrally aligned and I want it aligned vertically. And then let's just make some adjustments to this. And there we go. So now if I go back to my summary, and let's just change this to architect, and then go back to the Speedo, as you can see, it's now moved. Wonderful. Right, so that's brilliant. So let's now take, let's put that back to take that filter off. Let's go to my Speedo Dial. So this is really finicky stuff, obviously. But I think it looks really cool, and I think you'll agree. So now with this done, I'm just on the format here. I don't want any fill, and I don't want a border on this. So I just want it as is. And the other thing I'm going to do here is on this selection here, and size and properties. On the properties, I'm going to say do not move or size with cells, right? Because what I want to do now is I'm just going to move this so it's to the edge of it. So I've got the edge selected, and let's just move this one down so just got slightly below it, like so. And again, I like the fact that that edge is there, so let's just move that edge to there. Then what I'm going to do is I can't select there because I'll select the cell, but if I select to here, and then if I bring it to there, so it's now aligned to the edge of here, and it's aligned to the top here. And then I'm going to select that area, so I'm going to, like so, all the way down to that bottom cell, and I'm going to do Control Copy. So I'm not actually copying the chart, I'm copying the cell range, which so happens to include the image of that chart. So I've done that Control Copy, yeah. If I then go back to my summary sheet, and let's just put it, I'm going to move over to the right here because I want to play around with it first of all. And if I then do right click, and on here I'm going to do Paste Special, and I'm going to do Link Picture here. So there is my link picture on the Speedo. So I'm happy with the way that that looks. I'm going to go over to my Speedo support sheet, and I'm going to go to View and get rid of the grid lines. So now when I go back to my summary sheet, the grid lines have gone from the chart. So now I've got this picture. So now all I'm going to do is I'm going to size it. Now the one thing I don't like on here is I just want to make this a little bit thicker. So let me just go back to my Speedo here. Let's select the chart. I'm going to select one of the series here. And I'm going to do Control 1 to bring it up. And I'm going to do, because of now the pie chart's overlaying all this, I'm going to do Control right arrow key so I can select different sections here. So I'm just going to make sure I select the actual chart first, then using the Control and the right arrow key, I'm just going to cycle through until I've got one of the donuts selected. Right, that's the one I want. If I then go to here and I've got the donut size, I just want to make that a little bit less. So I'm just making that a little bit thicker, like so. See the effect it's having? Okay, I'm happy with that. But then means I need to move these labels out. So let me just fix those labels. Okay. So that looks better. If I go back to my summary sheet, and there you go. This is adjusted accordingly. So all I've got to do now is just make this the right size. So if I just push that down, what I'm going to do is just to have it there. And again, I'm going to right click on that and just say send back. So it's behind this, so it's not masking this. So now we've got our dial. So now if I just take the view off, take the grid lines off, that's what it looks like. And if I then get rid of this here, and if we change to architect, boom, it now changes accordingly. So wonderful. So let's do the next bit here where we want to have our a label here saying what the utilization target is, and then we're going to put the performance over here on the right. So again, this is going to be a text box. So as far as the goal, I need to put in here another pivot table from our data model because I want the goal value. And if you do change the goal value, you don't want to be changing multiple things. So I'm going to do insert pivot table from data model, just keep where I've got it. And then as far as the goal, if I go to my calendar, go down to this measure here and this KPI, and I'm going to tick the goal and click, and that's fine. And let me just get rid of that. And then right click on that, value field settings, number value is going to be a percentage. Click OK. Let's get rid of the decimal places. So if I go field value settings, let's get rid of those decimal places like so. Right, that's better. Now, as I said before, you cannot point a text box to a pivot table. So now I just need to put a label in here, goal, and that's going to be equals that. Hit return. And again, I'm going to make that a percentage, like so. And I can point my text box to that value, but not that value. So if I go to summary, I'm going to insert a text box here. So if I do insert text box, let's just draw it like so. You look what happens if I point it to that pivot table. So if I do equals, and I go to Speedo and I point to that value there, I should get an error. And there you go. It can't do it. So again, if I do equals and I do Speedo support and point it to that cell, hit return, we're fine. So let's make this a little bit bigger. So again, I'm going to take that. Yeah, that's fine. Bold. Let's put it in the middle. Let's align it like so. Now let's just put this. It's fine. Again, let's go to my format and let's make it, again, similar to everything else. Let's make it that one. Yeah, I think I used the wrong one. I prefer that colour there. So let's just take that one there and make it that one. That one and make it that one. Yeah. And then I'm going to put another text box in here and just call it utilization target. So I'm just going to insert. Let's do text box. Let's draw this one here. Let's call this. With that, let's take that. Let's do shape format. Let's make that one. Let's go with that. Again, on the home ribbon, middle. Let's make it bold and let's just make that a little bit bigger so we can see it. And again, I'm just going to hold down my Alt key because I want it to snap like so. And then snap like so. So I've now got my information here as far as my utilization target. I've got that at 75%. I might move this over slightly. Okay, that's better. Okay, so let's just take that filter off there. That moves perfectly. Right, the last thing I'm going to put on here now is I want to do my my utilization status by skill. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to select, let's select there. So I've got Y3 selected and I'm going to do insert pivot table from data model. Click OK. So what I want is from my resource table, I want the skill set. And then from the calendar table, I want the status from my KPI. So take that and drop it into the values. And then let's just close that down. I'm then going to, just on here, I'm just going to hit skill, like so. Let's make this column thickness, or width should I say, let's make that 22. I'm going to call that my status, so just overtype that title, like so. Turn, let's just click that, make that a little bit thinner. That's okay. And then what I'm going to do here is I'm just going to right click on this and do pivot table options. And the one thing I want to make sure is that I don't want the column widths to update. I don't want it to auto fit, okay? But I am preserving the cell formatting on updates. So on this here, I think that works for me. And then I'm just going to take this here. Yeah. I'm going to hold down my control key, wait for that plus sign and just drag it across, copy it. Yeah. And I'm going to call this label, let's put this label in here, let's call it Utilization. And there you go. And if I just make that down the Alt key so it snaps, just make that, that's it. And then all I'm going to do is select this. I'm going to hold down my control key, select that. In fact, what you can do is, to make this easier, I'm just going to go on here, find and select, do that drop down. I'm going to select objects, and then all I'm going to do is just highlight that there. So I've got those, and then format shape and alignment, align to top. Then I'm going to go back to the home ribbon, find and select, and just untick that, just to make it easier for selecting them. So I've now got everything on there as far as my status, but I need to give this a meaningful name. So with this selected, I'm going to go to pivot table analysis, and I'm going to call this PVT. It's on the summary sheet, and I'm going to say this is my KPI status, like so I can see what that is, and hit return. And then at the moment when I select these, look, everything's changing wonderfully, but this is not amending itself. So what I need to do is, again, right click on this, slice, I do report connections. I've got a pivot table there. We know what that is. That's on my Speedo, so I'm not going to worry about that for a second. So I'm just going to connect it to KPI status, like so, and click OK. And same on this resource slicer. I'm going to right click on it, report connections, and I'm going to connect it to that some KPI status, like so, and click OK. And then what I'm going to do here is on this column here, and I'm going to select this column, and I'm going to select this column. I'm going to right click and do column width and make that 2.5, like so, hit return. So everything moves accordingly for now. And that looks fine. So now when I hit architect, you can see that everything now is aligned. If I hit business analysis, PMO, everything is now dynamic. Wonderful. So that is where I'm going to end this video. We've now completed the chart views on the summary view. In the next video, I am going to look at creating our other analysis tabs for capacity, for demand, and for utilization, so you can drill into the detail. And we will then complete all the formatting on there. So we'll complete the formatting on this summary sheet and all those views, and we'll also include the hyperlinks in the next video. Hopefully you found this informative and enjoyed creating that Speedo dial. So I think it looks quite snazzy and eye-catching, and that everything is joined up as well. So if you did find this informative and helpful, please click that like button, hit the subscribe, and smash that notifications button for future content. I wish you a wonderful day wherever you are in the world, and I look forward to seeing you in the next video of this resource capacity planning series. Please take care of yourself. Bye bye now.